Hey guys, so when you're deck building, you kind of have to look at all of your options for non-engine and figure out what's the best against the most decks. And that's why I like to use these tier lists, is to figure out, which hand traps are generically applicable and which ones are kind of dead in a lot of matchups, or which ones should just stick to this side. So we're going to go ahead and just go through them in order. Whenever we're looking at each of these hand traps, we have to think about how do they do against the best decks of the format. And right now, in my preparation, the best decks of the format are going to be whatever topped Indie and kind of whatever else I think is going to be good. So we have Rescue Ace, we have Pearly, we have Tier, we have Unchained, and we have Manadium or like Rika. I think those, like any combo deck could top any tournament like in place of each other. So when we think about those 5 decks, what is Lancia good against? Like which ones need to banish stuff to kind of do anything? And to be honest, Rescue Ace might be one of your options, because if they go like Hydrant Search Turbulence, they have to banish 2 to summon the Turbulence, okay? So, that's pretty strong. But if they have Emergency to summon Turbulence, then that's not so good. So, and then your Lancia is kind of dead, and you're kind of just -1 and you're losing that game. So, in my opinion, this is going to go here in niche matchup side decks. You can bring it in against Rescue Ace, but if we look at any of the other decks, Pearly, Unchained, Tier, or whatever, Manadium, then it's not so great. Like Manadium, it's okay. It's okay, but against like Rika, it's like not that great at all. So I don't think this is really worth playing. You can make a case for niche matchup side decks. Ashe is going to go up here in the main. Ashe hits everything. It's good. It's solid against everything. Against Rescue Ace, hitting Emergency is nice. Against Unchained, hitting a trap card is nice. Ashe has been this way since it's been out, basically. So Ashe is in the main most of the time, in my opinion. On to Bystials. I think Bystials are both going to go up into main sometimes or strong side decks. And unfortunately, because it's not good against Rescue Ace and not really good against Pearly either, I think strong side decks is where it's going to go. Unless, of course, you're playing a deck where Bystials helps your actual deck, like Dragon Link, like Vanquish Soul, like some stuff like that. So other than that, just thinking for a generic deck that's building, trying to build a main deck and a side deck, Bystials in your side I think is fantastic and definitely worth a slot. So we're going to put both Magnuma and Druisworm there. Chaos Hunter, it's like Lancia, but it's worse. So it's not worth a slot, in my opinion. This was relevant in Kashtira format, maybe. But yeah, no, I don't think it's worthwhile. Okay, Contact C. I think Contact C also not worth a slot. And the reason being, every damn deck is playing SP Little Knight, a generic Link 2. Damn near every deck is playing Links now. You're not really going to be facing Branded, not really going to be facing Chimera Branded, and even that deck might be playing an SP in the main deck. So, DD Crow. I'm between main deck and main sometimes. I think DD Crow is actually very strong against most of the decks in the meta. And I think because of that, it's one of the couple cards that you could play in any main deck. But I don't think it's as strong as Ashe here. A case could be made. But it's just not as impactful as Ashe against a lot of the decks, like Rescue Ace. DD Crow is not that great. DD Crow is better against Tierlist, I think. But it's kind of up to you. I think that's where main. I think that's the point of this category, main sometimes. So I think DD Crow can go here. Shifter, if you can play it, it goes in the main, of course. Like, obviously, if your deck can't play Shifter, don't play Shifter, but it's like the strongest hand trap in the meta right now. Great against Rescue Ace, great against Tierlist, great against the combo decks like Manadium. It's not great against Pearly, even Pearly is playing this itself. So, but it is still strong against Pearly. Like, Pearly wants to Shifter on their own terms. So, just having Shifter when Pearly's going first is kind of nice. It stops them from the E-Pearly Noir play, and I think it's worthwhile. So, definitely main deck Shifter if you can. Droll is going to go up here in main sometimes. I think Droll is solid against a lot of decks, but also dead against a lot of decks, and just because of the high impact that it has, I think it's main sometimes, and because of the increasing prevalence of the combo stuff, Manadium, Infernoble, Rika, I think Droll is like creeping up into the main decks. If it's not in main, sometimes it's in strong side decks, but I think Droll is more generically applicable than stuff like the Bystials, and that's why I'm going to bump it up a tier. Veiler, I think, is also in main sometimes. I think it's solid. It's solid against a lot of stuff. It's solid against Pearly. It's solid against Rescue Ace. It's solid against Tier, not so much. But, it's okay. And then against the combo decks, Veilering, like Riem Heart, is kind of nice, to be honest. So, I think Veiler can go in main sometimes. It's just generic enough where you can main it and it won't be dead in like any matchup, but it's just not strong as Ash or Shifter. Phantasme, I think, is a strong side deck pick, but because of how many decks there are not link summoning really, like Pearly is not going to link summon regularly, I don't think, unless there's like new like going into IP lines every turn, but I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be good enough against stuff like Tier to be worth playing. Plus, if you just summon the Phantasme, they can just probably pop it or shuffle it with Kaleido and actually get value on turn 1. So I don't like giving or putting monsters on my board, turn 1 necessarily unless it's strong enough. But I think in some matchups like Unchained, I think actually it's gonna come down a tier. Unfortunately, I love Phantasme as a card, so I'm a little biased trying to move it up. But if I think about it a little bit more, no, I think this is gonna go here in niche. Onto Bell, it's kind of the same. Like, it's generically good, but I don't think in this particular format it's that great. It's like the applicability is a little worse than Veiler, in my opinion. So, and I don't think it's worth a side deck slot. Like, there's no matchups where I think, oh, I'm siding in Bell, I'm going to be great game 2. Like, I don't think so. So I think it's going to go in niche. There are some decks that can play this, like Vanquish Soul, because of the Earth attribute synergy as well. But besides that, Bell is just not going to be that great. Maybe even not worth a slot. It's going to be in one of these two. But I like Bell's just generic applicability, so it'll go in niche matchup. Mourner is kind of there for Pearly. I think it's going to be kind of the same here. Niche matchup side decks. It's going to be coming in for Pearly. It's going to be coming in for maybe stuff like Combo. So I think you can make a case for a niche matchup side deck slot. Ogre is going to be the same, actually. I kind of like Ogre a little bit more and more. I think it's a sleeper pick for a Handtrap this format. I put out a video about Ghost Ogre like a week or two ago about how it's really good into Horus, it's really good into Diabellstar stuff, and it's really good into like IP, which everyone is ending on IP. So yeah, and I forgot, actually, Ghost Bell stops the Diabellstar Spell Searcher, right? The Wanted card. It can add from deck or graveyard. Yeah, so I think Bell is kind of nice into the Diabellstar decks. So I think, yeah, it's even more justifiable to put it in this slot. Cherries is good in like tier 0 formats or 2-deck formats, but in this format where there's 15 different decks, it's not worth a slot. Granted, every deck is playing SP. So maybe that's actually like a sleeper slot, but like, there's no deck where it's so dependent on SP that a Cherries on SP will stop them from winning the game. So I don't think it's worth a slot, but it is kind of an interesting play. If everyone is on SP, you could be on Cherries, reveal your own SP, banish theirs, and you can have some kind of advantage. But is it worth the -1? I don't know. Dogwood, no. Optimally no, or niche side deck, like, it's just for time. There's no matchup dependent on Dogwood unless your deck is a slow deck and you go into time often, thinking like Runic, thinking like maybe some Pearly matchups can go kind of long. So yeah, it's up to you if you want to play this. We could just chuck it up there. No material, I don't think so. It's dead after turn 1, so I don't know. There's nothing worth stopping specifically, and it's not good against every matchup either, so I think no material is not worth a slot. Okay, Imperm. I think Imperm is either main deck or main sometimes, and The reason I don't like guaranteed main deck is it kind of sucks into tier limit, but it's good into Pearly, and it also kind of sucks into Unchained unless your deck super loses to the DDD XCs. Then having Imperm going second, just holding the Imperm for your turn is kind of nice, and I think I'll put it in main sometimes. I don't think it's like a locked in main deck slot. And then Nib is going to be kind of the same. It's very good against a lot of decks, but very crap against a lot of decks as well. So Nib is going to be dead into Pearly. It's not going to be great into Tier because of Rukalos. It's not going to be... It's not an auto win against Unchained, even though it is kind of strong. It's one of the strongest points of Nib right now. I don't know. I think it's main sometimes for Nib as well. Gamma, not worth a slot in my opinion. Maybe... It's either not worth a slot or main sometimes. There's definitely no reason to side in Gamma with one Gamma. But if your deck can support Gamma, like Pearly can, like Chimera Branded can, then main sometimes is justifiable. But otherwise, not worth a slot. Retaliating Sea, nothing is really special summoning with spell cards where if you were to summon Retaliating Sea after, you would just stop their turn. Like if Rescue Ace goes Emergency to start with, then it could be good because you can keep their Rescue Ace stuff out of the graveyard, but you know, only if they start with Emergency. If they could just go into their monster stuff first, then Retaliating Sea is going to be kind of dead. So it's either a niche or a not worth a slot, and personally I think it's not worth a slot here. Saravis, same thing. The only deck I've seen play Saravis is the Exodia deck that won round 4 of Indy. Played 3 Saravis, but he's going for FTK. He's got to make sure his stuff doesn't get impermed or veilered or whatever. So Saravis is going to be fine in that particular deck, but otherwise not worth a slot. Skullmeister, niche side deck. This is good against Tier. It's good against Unchained, and that's about it. So, you know, it's definitely not main deckable. You know, you could claim that it's strong inside decks, but it's only good against 2 of the decks in the format out of the 15. So yeah, that's where niche comes in. And then Token Collector, nothing's playing tokens. We don't see Adventure Package. We don't see Sword Soul right now. So yeah, this is not worth a slot at all. So this is where I'm gonna be with my Handtrap tier list. So Ash is gonna be in every one of my main decks right now. Shifter. Anything that I can play Shifter in is going to play Shifter, but otherwise, yeah, of course, this doesn't go here if your deck can't support it, but if it can, there you go. And then main sometimes, DD Crow, Droll, Veiler, Imperm, and Nib. These are just generically good. This particular format, and, you know, like most formats, that's where we're going to be at. And then I'm going to have Bestials in every one of my side decks as well. So let me know what you guys think about this tier list, what you're thinking about this format, and the non-engine that you want to be playing in it. I'll do a board breaker tier list in a different video. And with that, we'll catch you guys later. We'll see you in the next one.